be good at this by now. Fact of the matter is, I am not.
It's all right. It's a work in progress.
Yes.
You don't have to achieve perfection until the moment you die.
It's
Right?
a 5-year process where I will eventually be good at podcasting. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Unique New York. Red leather, yellow leather.
The lion eats velvet.
I've never heard that one before.
It hasn't existed until
The
recently.
arsonist had sticky feet.
The arsonist had sticky feet.
All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to a Most Excellent 80s Movie Podcast on the Most Excellent Podcast Network. It's the podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian rediscover the movies of the 80s with as much fascination and horror as a little boy discovering a short, ugly alien. I am comedian Chrissy Lenz, director of National Comedy Theater.
And I'm the filmmaker, Nathan Blackwell of Squishy Studios.
Yes. And today we are watching E.T. from 1982. So, do we want to, this is our, third episode. I don't feel like we've had a lot of success with our On This Day in 1980 something. It's like, it's all super boring and we can't.
Yeah, I 100%
anything.
agree.
Yeah, so this E.T. came out June 11th, 1982.
Maybe it was kind of like what was going on. Like it could encompass the month. Yeah.
All right, so I have here a link to onthisday.com, but it's sort of all of the events of June 1982. So, and it's still like
Super
okay.
sore.
So the 55th National Spelling Bee winner was Molly Devaney, and she won by spelling psoriasis. Let's see. Wrath of Khan was released in early June.
Oh, I remember seeing that in the theater.
And yeah, so it's still like not super. Martina Navratilova beat Andrea Jaeger to win the French Open, so we all care about that. It's like blah.
So did you watch the original theatrical version or the brand new digital?
It must have been, and I was thinking this too as I watched it. I watched it on Netflix.
Okay.
So it was they had guns.
Okay, good. There wasn't the walkie-talkies.
No,
okay.
They had guns, and there was a line even with her mom goes, "No guns, they're children." They just ignore her.
Okay, good.
All right, here comes the
So good.
trailer.
We saw the same one then.
Okay, good.
In 1975, he directed Jaws. In 1978, he directed Close Encounters of the Third Kind. In 1981, he directed Raiders of the Lost Ark. And now, Steven Spielberg brings us E.T., the Extra Terrestrial. We will witness the arrival, the search, the desertion, the fear, the discovery, the friendship,
I'm keeping him.
the secret, the love, the warning, the signal, the mystery, the danger. The intrusion, the wonderment, the enchantment, the hope. The connection has been made. Universal Pictures presents Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extra Terrestrial.
E.T., the Extraterrestrial. So, do you have a little summary for us, just in case anyone hasn't ever seen E.T., the Extraterrestrial?
Gee, I can't imagine. I'm sure they're out there. Let's see.
Oh, they exist.
I was trying to come up with a summary that sounded like Pokemon.
Oh,
It's like
nice.
A boy and his friend who he's captured will be friends forever.
Unless that thing he's captured can get home any way possible.
Right. An alien stranded on Earth finds a little boy as a friend who's willing to help him go home. Pepsi presents E.T. the Extra Terrestrial.
So what was your experience with this movie?
So this is 82 was about the time that I started to remember things in my life.
Nice, that's good.
So yeah, I remember that summer or that year, and then especially Christmas when it was just E.T.
Everything?
Yeah, E.T. mania. And then my mom was even telling me, I told her that I was watching E.T. for this podcasting. I was like, I had to drive so many stores all throughout town to find you that stuffed E.T. you wanted.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so this was kind of so basically I was the age of Drew Barrymore in this movie when I saw it. So I still kind of remember the mania of E.T. that year. When did it come out? Was it June?
June 11th.
June
yeah.
11th? Okay,
so early
yeah.
June.
Yeah,
82.
and that frenzy stayed all the way to Christmas.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine. Yeah, I'm certain that if Rocket saw this in the theater, my son, who's 7, he would be obsessed.
Yeah, he'd be flipping out.
Yeah.
And it's
But I think he'd want a flying bike more than he'd want a creepy stuffed alien.
I wanted a stuffed E.T. that I could hug all the time.
Aww. That's horrifying to me.
It wasn't as slimy.
Ew.
Plush E.T. with real slime.
Oh God.
So
Turns white if you don't hug it often enough.
I adored E.T. when I was a small child. You have a different point of view.
I do. I definitely saw this when I was a little kid. Had to have been on VHS.
This was one of those things is that, to kind of put it in history, when this came out on VHS, this kind of broke the model. This movie was kind of the one that broke the model of like all VHSs were like $100.
Oh, damn.
And then suddenly there was a $20 VHS that you can buy. And this kind of turned VHSs and things like that to it kind of broke VHS home ownership out into the
God.
popular mainstream, because the studios didn't want to really sell these things, and really the only people who bought these were super crazy diehard people, the first in, or rental, video rental places,
Because you could rent the VCR too.
Yeah, but even if you owned a VCR, it was cost prohibitive to buy the movies,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I remember the early days of DVDs when in 2000, I think, either 99 or 2000, like we bought our first, as grown-ups, our first DVD player, and I think it was like $300 or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. But that's cool. I didn't know that E.T. was...
it was going to happen eventually, but it was like E.T. and Top Gun and those movies that kind of were the ones that were so big that they were able to really kind of change the paradigm and change the pay structure. And so everyone was buying E.T.
That's cool. Well, my family must have bought it because we watched it and I found it terrifying. So scary. There are so many things I hate about this movie. And I understand objectively that it is a good movie. I was crying. I finished watching it 10 minutes ago, and I was crying. But there's so much I hate about it. I made a list of things that I hate. I hate the sound E.T. makes. I hate his creepy fingers. I hate his pulsating head. I hate his gross breathing. I hate his gross grunting and screaming. The whole first hour of this is him grunting and screaming. I hate the telescoping neck. I hate it when he's wrapped in a blanket. I hate it when he's dressed in drag. I hate it when he finally figures out how he can say Elliot. That sound terrifies me. It sounds like The Grudge, right? He sounds like it's one step away from Elliot to just the Grudge sound, right? Does anyone remember The Grudge? No. I hate it when they find him in the ditch and he's white and rotten and there's like a raccoon sniffing at him. I hate it when they're giving him CPR and you have to watch his chest like squishing down. I hate E.T. He's terrifying and gross. And here's a beef I have. What evolution on whatever planet they come from would make a creature shaped that way? It doesn't make sense to me. And I often have this beef with Guillermo del Toro because he creates creatures that I'm just like, what evolution produced this creature, Guillermo? Why would it be so bottom heavy?
Please respond to my text messages.
Please, finally, answer me. Because when he's like, at the very end, when he's going up the little gangplank and whenever he's trying to run away, he's like not built for, he's built like a little short, fat, like his legs are just tucked under him. Like on his planet, does he not have to walk?
There's a lot of escalators on their planet.
Must be. Are they just? Well, we see them in the Galactic Council, right? In episode 1.
Yeah, Phantom Menace.
So that's my experience with E.T. I never went back and watched it again after I saw it as a kid. I was just like, no, thank you, not for me. But I was, particularly as a kid, a super big Steven Spielberg fan. At that time in my life, I wanted to be a movie director. And my dad had a really cool, like, gigantic movie. What do you call those? Movie cameras. What do you call them, Nathan?
Camcorder?
Yes, there you go. Thank you. And I did several biography reports, the kind you have to do in, like, 4th grade, where you dress up as the person and you're like, I am Martha Washington. And I was like, I made a paper beard and taped it to my face and wore, like, a jean jacket and my dad's big glasses, and I was like, in a baseball hat, and I was like, I am Steven Spielberg. I make movies. This is my movie camera device. And yeah, so I was a little bit obsessed with Steven Spielberg. I like objectively can watch this movie and say, yeah, he's good at making movies. He's got it figured out. Because it looks really cool. You know, all of the directing choices I think are really neat. It's just some of the other choices that I'm like, why do you make it so gross?
Why you make it so gross?
Why you make it so gross? Because like I think
so. It's been about 30 years since you've seen this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
so
it's gross.
So it hasn't improved with time for you.
I think the meaning of it is more relevant to me now. Like the fact that Elliot loves, you know, at the end where he says, I love you, and then the heart starts glowing. Okay. You got me.
So had you like, when you saw this as a child, it scared you? So
it scared me.
This was a story about a monster that haunted a house.
And killed a kid, and almost killed a little boy. Yes.
Until they finally banded together to get rid of it.
To get rid of him. Just get rid of it. Yeah, it's a horror movie, for sure. So scary. And as I watched it this time, it was less scary and more, like, gross. But, like, it's also really sad.
Oh, yeah,
like,
for sure.
The mom is so sad.
So, yeah, the movie is really about, like, divorce and, like, the things that the young boy is going through and the mom is going through. You know, it was really kind of about, like, Spielberg's, you know, isolation and the feelings of divorce in Arizona, no less, of you know, and then wanting kind of a magical little friend from somewhere, and this is kind of like the fantasy
drunk with.
Well, yeah.
Question mark.
Really, Coors? I guess if that's your only option.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't see the mom drinking that either. Like, why did she have it? Maybe it was the dad's drink and it's still in the fridge, and that's sad too.
Right.
Because she's definitely drinks like spritzers, or at that time she drank Bartles and James.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I get that it's about divorce and stuff, but she's so checked out. The mom, I was really fascinated by the mom character because she's so checked out that like Gertie is trying to show her an alien creature that has been living in her house for an indeterminate amount of time. And she just can't be bothered to, like, turn her head slightly. And then, like, she's got this crazy... Her Halloween costume is this, like, sexy leopard dress with enormous shoulder pads.
It was the 80s.
And she just sits in her home. Like, I guess, is that how... Did moms do that? They dressed up and sat at the house?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what my mom did.
Mm-hmm. That seems like it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt really bad for the mom. She did, like, she sat down at one point and, like, read the Tinkerbell book to Gertie, but I think that was only so we could make the Tinkerbell connection to, like, love bringing E.T. back to life. Or was he just faking? Was he playing possum?
That's some people dislike that part because they feel like it's a bit manipulative, but it also, like, on the upside, it kind of makes the movie super, super sad.
It does.
And then it kind of gives you that roller coaster of, like, going all the way down and then ripping all the way back up. Like, the ending wouldn't have been so emotional hadn't it gotten that sad.
That serious.
But yeah, it's tough because it's really kind of a suspension of disbelief. Like, it's like, so E.T. is separating from Elliot, Is he going into, like, a self-induced coma? Is it just that he's getting sick and the two are separating? Is it the proximity of his friends, his cohorts, that is bringing him back?
Or
then
like,
they use the flower to kind of indicate
that he's back. Or it felt like, to me,
what's going on,
almost like he was sacrificing himself so that Elliot could live. Like, if he realized that their connection was what was killing Elliot, he might have. But I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks that.
No. I think that's probably what I believe.
Yeah, I did find it weird. Also, I'm afraid of aliens in general, just as a thing to be afraid of. I am super afraid of aliens in all of their forms, but, like, the smaller the scarier to me. Like the aliens in, like, Independence Day that are huge.
So the larger you can
see them coming.
Yeah,
they're fine. Like the ones in Signs where you're like, oh, it's just an ugly person. Okay,
right.
I can fight with that. The little creepy ones I don't like, and maybe this is what started it all.
They're hard to shoot.
Yeah, they keep trying to hug you and their necks grow. Ugh, I hate it. The people who are there to take over this alien are really sort of chillaxed about it. Like they don't even ask the family to, like, go to a motel. They just let them walk around and do whatever they want, basically. Yeah. He walks into the van where they've got the coffin, and they're just like, oh, hey.
So one of the things
don't touch anything.
Right. I hadn't seen the movie in a number of years, maybe about 6-7 years. And one of the things I was really aware of is that the style. It's like Spielberg has a very playful and cinematic style, and for a movie that is as magical as this one, it's so realistic in terms of tone. He's dialed that way down, because usually, like if you see, like, Raiders Lost Ark and things like that, like, there's cute little gags and little winks and playful camera moves, and that's just feels like it's all stripped out except for just, like, a couple of moments to where, like, the frogs are escaping and he's standing on the large kid and they kiss, cut, juxtaposed to, like, the Quiet Man with John Wayne, it's like,
yeah.
And there's a couple of little moments like that, like, the Halloween scene. But for the most part, it's played super, super stripped down and straight and, like, realistic, and almost like people are talking over each other, like a Robert Altman movie. And it's done super, super realistic in a lot of ways. I remember reading about how, he would design and storyboard almost all of his movies, and for this he didn't. He just wanted to kind of, like, find where he felt the scene was and just kind of feel it and go through instinct. This
I
was
think that's interesting because so many of the shots are like you get all of those shots of, like, the faceless men in silhouette and At one point you see all of the roads sort of crisscrossing in a way that seems like somebody spent a long time figuring out where to put the camera to get that exact shot.
Yeah, I think he's really good at this.
He's got it figured out. I think he's got a career ahead of him after this.
Yeah, so it's what was super interesting is how much of the movie was from the kid's point of view, like until E.T. was dying, and suddenly, like when all these other adults showed up, like I'm genuinely struggling. Other than the TV, do we see any adult's face other than the mom for like an hour?
No, you really don't. They are just the faceless sort of minions. Yeah, and even when we see any of the, like, I guess they're government men, like the G-men coming after them, no, they're all either in silhouette or the camera doesn't pan up far enough to see their faces.
It's like the parents from Peanuts.
Yeah, because the science teacher, too, is like you just see him walking around monotonely telling the kids how they're going to chloroform these live frogs. What was that? They were alive frogs. And they're like, put the chloroform in let's all murder. Was that okay in the 80s? I found that shocking.
That was, I feel like that has, I think that was a thing. Like in biology class. I don't know if it was ever for kids that young.
I dissected a frog. I think it was 7th grade. I definitely dissected a frog and a fetal pig and like a squid for some reason. But they were like shipped to us dead.
Right.
And I think we were allowed to like believe they died of natural causes after a long, happy life. Because you're not like dying. You're not like looking for a cause of death. They
all died at the end of a great party, kids.
Not like, let's murder this creature. First make friends with it. Then we're going to cut it open. And he's even saying, like, if you don't want to watch them die, you don't have to watch them die. Or chloroform wouldn't kill. Would chloroform kill a frog?
Maybe too much. Listen,
otherwise they're going to be
the
alive.
Chloroform podcast is Thursdays.
Oh, I thought that was crazy. I totally got us off subject. But you don't see his face. Yeah, the adults are all like everything is shot from like
strictly from the kid's point of view. Yeah, strictly from the kid's point of view until suddenly they start appearing, and even then it's kind of like in these faceless people, and then they take off their masks.
They come in. And they don't take off their masks until after E.T. is dead. You nailed that 100%. They come in NASA space exploration suits, which I'm pretty sure the NASA guys don't let you walk around with those on dry land or whatever. And they all just come in the scariest way possible. Yeah, still faceless until he's dead, and they all make a big show of revealing their faces. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, so I what I noticed is that as soon as all these adults are kind of swarming in, most of their faces, except for Keys, Peter Coyote, you can't see their faces, And it's not until E.T. is dead that they all kind of pull off their masks and it kind of humanizes them. And you see that they're not scary people, that they're like adults of different genders and backgrounds, and they're also upset that E.T. is dead as well,
I thought that the character's like surprisingly understanding and nice when he was like, can we give him a minute? I wouldn't think of that ever happening in like a modern government takeover. You have something we want. Like, I'm pretty sure they would just kill the whole family.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that Spielberg wanted to do with this is he wanted to have kind of an unknown villain, and then when you realize they're people, that you realize there are no villains,
They're just trying to figure out what the hell this ugly little thing is. What is this hideous monster that has coupled its life force to this young boy? Yeah, that's interesting. There are a lot of like little things that I wrote down that I really liked about the movie.
Yeah, what are some of your favorite parts? Begrudgingly enjoyed.
Begrudgingly. There's a part where Gertie's like, I don't like his feet. And I'm like, you tell it, girl. You tell him. He's gross. There's a part where they're at the bus stop, which, by the way, why were there so many kids at that bus stop?
Oh, yeah.
There was like 40 kids waiting to get on this bus. Like, there's one stop. They stop one place, and then they go to school, and that's it.
80s, man.
I guess. They had no rules. It was lawless. But they're fighting with each other, and I forget what the older boy is calling Elliot, but he keeps saying, "Zero charisma! Zero charisma!" And I think we should bring that back. I think we should start shouting that at people.
Was that a Dungeons and Dragons reference?
It was.
Think? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, because at the first scene of the kids is them playing Dungeons and Dragons, just like Stranger. This whole movie is just like Stranger Things, Stranger Things, Stranger Things.
I can't believe they ripped off Stranger Things. So that's a good question. So you're arguably more familiar with Stranger Things than you are E.T.
Mm-hmm.
So,
a whole bunch.
So what do you think of the parallels?
I saw them so clearly, like watching Stranger Things. The ones that I noticed were the more obvious things that I've seen a lot of. But there was so much E.T. in Stranger Things, like shot for shot. And the themes, a lot of them the same. The people in masks, the government facility, and the special little friend who can do magic and make vans fly through the air and stuff. I thought it was really clear to see the parallels, and it was interesting seeing it backwards. Like, I've seen Stranger Things a bunch. Now I'm going to watch E.T. for the first time in a long time and be like, oh, there, I see it. I mean, you could tell that they're influenced by Spielberg, but I saw more like Indiana Jonesy, Goonies type
Stand
stuff.
by Me,
totally. I liked, what else did I like? So something that really is, to me, just one of my favorite tropes of the 80s is that kids on bikes, like, had the world at their feet. Like,
oh, yeah.
If you had a bike, there was literally nothing could stop you.
Oh, yeah. It's like in Stranger Things to say, that kid wouldn't leave it there. These things are like a Cadillac to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could just go wherever you wanted.
And do whatever you want.
That was never the case for me.
Your parents do not care where you are. Yeah. You can go any place. And I love, there's a part like right at the end where he's like, "Get the bikes. Meet us at the playground." And they're all just like, "Yup," and they just get on their bikes and they put on their hats and it's like, let's do this. We hardly see those boys at all throughout the entire thing, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, let's go. Why are they going? They're not part of this. At some point they're like, let's split up. But if I'm the government people, I'm like, I don't even know those kids. Who are they? Get the one with the alien in his basket. But I love that whenever I see that sort of cliche of 80s movies, which I guess was a cliche of 80s life. It was just like kids on bikes, man. They do what they want. They go where they please. They find treasure. They help aliens escape back to their home worlds.
I need to get a bike.
Get a bike. And like, let's live in the 80s again where nobody needs to know where you are.
So so they could have made like the older brother, was it Michael? Mm-hmm. They could have made him just kind of a dick,
He starts out as kind of a dick.
Oh yeah,
but he grows on you.
Yeah,
you find his kindness.
He had some. There were some great moments for him, just to kind of just peppered throughout the story that were just like these great little humanized. It's like, oh yeah, he's going through this divorce thing too. He doesn't get this wonderful alien friend. There was that moment where he's sitting on the bus and everyone is like throwing things and tearing apart, and he's just kind of sitting there as everyone is just like going nuts. Or that moment where Elliot is with E.T. and he just goes and sits with all the stuffed animals. Yeah, and it's just so sad, and he just falls asleep.
Oh, you're right. That part is really sad. He also has that moment where Elliot like reveals that the dad is in Mexico with another woman and like upsets the mom, and
oh yeah,
he's like he says something.
He's
like,
super defensive for it's like think of someone else other than why don't you think of your own feelings? Blah 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 blah. At the same time, he's weaseling out of doing the dishes.
Yeah. And like getting in trouble for ordering a pizza and having all his friends over.
But that was 100% the way it was. I remember being. I was raised by a single mom, pretty much, and then I remember that kind of stuff. It's like, why are you making Mom feel bad? At the same time, I'm like doing nothing to help her out.
You understand the emotional component of wanting to support
Right.
Mom, but not the logistical component of wanting to help Mom. Well, what were some of your favorite parts?
So yeah, I loved those kind of like moments of playfulness where like where E.T., like the classic moment where E.T. is hiding among the stuffed animals, holding completely still.
Always scared me so much that I was gonna like if I ever saw a group of stuffed animals together that he was in there somewhere.
Right.
He's in there somewhere.
I loved the Halloween sequence where
Yeah.
E.T. is just under the sheet and he's just looking at everything, you know, it's like so sincerely, and then when he spots Yoda.
Like, stop making that sound. It's so
That's
scary.
so good. Or that line where, you know, it's like, well, can't he just beam up to his spaceship? It's like, this is reality, Greg. Yeah, they just, you know, they say this all the time, but, you know, movies don't let kids be kids anymore, you know? Like, this movie did a great job of just kind of letting kids be kids without it going, like, full Bad News Bears, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of figuring it out themselves. And they don't try to keep it a secret. They try and reveal it to Mom over and over and over again. Michael tries, Gertie tries, I think Elliot tries too, and she's just like, it's not having it. She's in a serious denial about seeing certain things. I thought too when I watched it this time was like, E.T. gets lost because he's mesmerized by the lights of the city. Like, he's not supposed to be going over there.
Yeah, he's a looky-loo.
So is he also maybe a little kid in his world, and he's just like too curious, and he's like definitely grounded when he gets back?
Or he's an adult and he's a daydreamer, you know?
But like, why would they take him? So don't take E.T. or like whatever his alien name is, like Steve, I'm guessing.
Largo.
Yeah. Don't take him on the trip, and then like I just picturing all the E.T.s in there once they're like, do you know how far we had to drive to come pick you up? And why didn't
Your
they
father
know?
will be so upset when
Yeah.
you get home.
No TV for 2 weeks, E.T. You made us all go really out of our way. But they knew where he was. Like, they should have known where he was.
I think they generally knew. They were probably hanging out in the solar system. I can't imagine they went too far.
Like, sort of, it's like Mars. It's like, what's that one where the guy gets left on Mars?
Mars Attacks?
No, he gets left on Mars.
The Martian?
Yeah. And they're like, should we go get him?
Wow. The Martian is E.T. from the human's point of view.
Yeah. And he just doesn't make any friends. Okay, so I did a little bit of research. I'm not sure, like, I bet people know a lot about E.T. already. Like, it's not a big mystery, but I did look up the box office mojo. And I can't figure out if these numbers are adjusted for inflation or not. Like,
yeah, that's the problem.
why wouldn't it tell me? Or maybe they just always are. I don't know. So the budget was $10.5 million, and
he was making kind of they were giving him this favor. Basically,
well, you heard the trailer.
Yeah,
Here's the things that you liked.
Yeah, they were selling it completely on Spielberg and not the story itself. You know, like they didn't expect. No one expected for it to be like a big box office smash. He was expecting to make kind of like a small personal film.
This is like, there's too many numbers here that I don't understand. So I'm just going to give you the big one that's in bold at the top. Domestic total gross, $359 million. Lifetime domestic gross, $435 million. Not bad. Pretty good. Let's see if I can find out. I'm a little behind because I didn't finish watching the movie until literally 5 minutes before you walked up. 1982. No, this is 1983. Right?
82.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, okay. I got confused because it says the number one movie is John Carpenter's The Thing. So I got confused. I was like, we just did that one.
Right.
No, we did Escape from New York. Anyway. So this was the number one movie of 1982.
Oh, yeah, by a long shot.
And then Tootsie, An Officer and a Gentleman, Rocky III, and Porky's in the top 5. So, real mixed bag there, everyone. Yeah. So this is, we looked up all-time box office records adjusted for ticket price inflation.
Right. Because a movie ticket back then was $3.
Yep. You could take your whole family for $20. Number 1 is Gone with the Wind. Number 2 is Star Wars. I assume A New Hope. It doesn't indicate.
Yeah.
Number 3 is The Sound of Music. And number 4 is E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
So adjusted for inflation, what's the number?
$1,266,759,200.
So $1.2 billion.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got Titanic. Jaws is 7. Force Awakens is number 11. Empire Strikes Back is 13. Return of the Jedi is 16. Jurassic Park is 17. $820 million. Raiders of the Lost Ark is 21. Dang, Steven Spielberg got this on lockdown. $790 million. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is number 75.
You know what's funny, in that trailer, they listed all of his movies, but they skipped it over his famous bomb, 1941.
Yep. That's not on this list. Yeah, and there's I'm sure that there's 1,012 fun facts and stuff. I didn't, in my 5 minutes of research time, have anything.
You have such an aversion to this movie.
With reporting. I'll tell you, it took me so long to watch it because I kept having to turn it off.
You were repelled?
I was just like, nope, no more today, thank you.
You had to take showers.
I did. I had to make sure I wasn't watching it too late at night because it was just nightmare fuel.
Did you find it great that as soon as E.T. started drinking, he started dialing on the speak and spell?
Hey, you up? New speak and spell. Who dis? I love it. Yeah, and I did think when Elliot is acting drunk in class, he's doing a really good job, and so I wondered if that actor at that time had any experience being drunk. It was the 80s after all. I mean, he could have asked Drew Barrymore, what should I do? Or if the adults were just look sleepy and happy.
Mm-hmm. Sleepy and happy.
And you brought something. You
brought
a show and tell item.
So I brought my copy of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the Atari game.
Bum, bum, bum.
Legendarily known as the worst game ever. There's even a documentary called Atari Game Over that you can see on Netflix about how it did so poorly, and it kind of the Atari bubble had burst, that they were just churning out these terrible kind of money grab games, and they made so many that they ended up just burying them in a landfill. Probably multiple landfills, not just that one.
Not just that one. There are 8 landfills.
It's best to split them up so no one can find them all.
Okay, what did we miss anything? We have to do our recommendations, of course.
So one other thing I wanted to talk about that I really loved about this movie.
Yes.
I thought
you don't have to have just
music,
one. You can have as many as you want.
I thought not only the sound but the music.
Mm-hmm. Says someone who is currently
in
up to his elbows in sound design.
So, but no, I think this is one of John Williams' best scores that he's ever done, and it's the moments where you experience some of that magic.
It is magic. I mean, it's great. I rarely notice music and sound design and stuff, but in this movie I definitely was like, oh, that's great. I love how they did that. When they are soaring over and you hear the bird sounds and stuff, it's really good. Mm-hmm. And of course the E.T. song. So good.
And then the whole ending is so much on the music. It's they even after he did the music, they recut the whole ending to match the music.
Oh wow!
Yeah, just because it was just so perfect for the moment.
I love it. I didn't know that. Did I hear somewhere, or did I imagine that there was a scene at the end of the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons again?
Oh,
in the original version, this might be what you're talking about too, is that they had filmed a scene of like life after the fact where the boys are letting Elliot play and they're playing Dungeons and Dragons again, kind of like Stranger Things. Should I say that oppositely?
Yeah.
Kind of like E.T.
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah. Which is what they copy in Stranger Things. And then they canned it because they felt like they've said everything they need to say.
Oh, yeah,
and
for
it should
sure.
just end on Elliot's face.
Yeah. There was even a deleted scene where Harrison Ford was one of the teachers. I'm not joking.
You're not joking?
No.
What?
His wife wrote the screenplay to E.T., Melissa Matheson.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But, okay. I wonder what that scene is like. Is it on like one of the myriad DVDs that have been released?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
A walkie-talkie version?
Right.
Not a gun version?
Right.
Oh, that's crazy. I did notice all the little Star Wars nods. The Yoda just like ambling up the street.
This is Greedo, and he can have a war.
Yeah, that part reminded me of my son too. Just like that's what he would do if he met an alien creature.
Oh yeah, I absolutely had those exact figures. Mm-hmm. That's what I would have done. It's like impress him with my figure.
Look what I've got. But I mean, I hate E.T., but there's a lot of things I love about the movie. Yeah, I love the music. I cried a lot.
Yeah,
I did.
I'm pro E.T. I can definitely understand your wrong opinions.
I fully accept that.
I fully sympathize with your terrible ideas.
I don't know. I think other people are going to come forward and be like, "No, I also am afraid of E.T."
I too am afraid of the naked alien man
who's like squashed on the bottom. Uh-huh. It's like it's like someone made a model of an alien and then someone accidentally squashed it, and they were just like, "Go with it."
Right. Yeah, so that is an interesting question. Like, how would E.T. do if it was released this year? Mm-hmm. I imagine in the pitch or in development of the movie, it would be brought up that effectively E.T. is a nude adult whose only friends are children.
Yes. Oh, he's so like that. Him as a creature design to me is really of the 80s as well. Like, because he's obviously a really cool practical effect, and they were just like, I don't know, let's make it look weird. But then there was also like Mac and Me and like other gross 80s.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it was the biggest movie ever. And it's really kind of hard to rip off. Like, you can kind of rip off Star Wars really easily with a bunch of people in space outfits and a spaceship. It's tough to rip off an alien without even doubling the weirdness and the goopiness of...
And then...
Yeah, like Mac and Me...
Put some hair on it. I don't know.
That's the most overt rip off. Mm-hmm. And then there's plenty of movies like Short Circuit, which is kind of a spiritual... rip-off.
They're shaped the same.
Yeah.
Though. They're shaped the same. Like really bottom heavy with that gross telescoping head.
Yeah.
I don't have the same aversion to Johnny Five, but...
Robots never...
Never trust a robot. No, I believe that. So what would you recommend? So, of course, like IMDb and everything, they're always like, people who liked this also liked blah, which, by the way, for this, they recommend Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I don't know what algorithm is coming up with that. But what would you recommend that if people like E.T., they would also like blank? And then, or reverse it, if somebody likes blank, you'd say, oh my God, you have to watch E.T. So like I would say if somebody likes Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You'd be like, well, have you seen E.T.? Oh my God, you have to go watch it. It's terrifying. It's a horror movie and it's really, really sad.
I would say, okay, so if you love E.T., and you love that kind of movie, it's like the movie that is kind of about kids and it's about wonder and there's no real villains. There's a Japanese anime called My Neighbor Totoro.
Totoro!
Yes. So by Hayao Miyazaki. There's a lot of similarities between the two movies. Some people even call it like Americans call it like his E.T. because it's about these girls dealing with family problems, and they kind of encounter this magical forest spirit. And it is a magical and sad, but kind of wonderful movie. And there's no villain. It's just kind of about growing up and the circumstances, and losing your sister in the forest, and having like a magic 20-foot foot long cat
Puffball,
bus.
yeah.
Cat bus. But yeah, I'd say My Neighbor Totoro.
That's a great recommendation, and I love that because then you can really go down the rabbit hole of like all the Miyazaki movies if you haven't seen them.
Oh yeah, that's a great one for kids because Miyazaki is honestly one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. That he all of his, it's almost like each of his movies is made for a specific age, and that's like a perfect like 8-year-old, 10-year-old kind of movie, and then there's that's a good gateway into a lot of his other kind of kid-friendly movies.
I like that. That's good. I would probably recommend Big Hero 6 because it's sort of it just reminded me of it a lot in the way. And if adults haven't seen Big Hero 6 because it seems like a kid's movie, I would say watch it. You need to watch it because it's really, really good. And it's, adventure about a kid who also has sad life circumstances, is lonely and looking for a friend, finds a nice robot, one of the few robots I will permit, who then they go, fight.
Is there an
good.
extreme vetting process that you go through for your children on the positive
robots?
Robots.
No, almost no robots are good. But Baymax is a good robot. And Big Hero 6 is a great movie, and you get a lot of that moment of like self-sacrifice where something happens and Baymax and Hero have to separate. But it's really good. I recommend it. What would you recommend that's not a movie?
Right. Our deep cut.
Recommendation.
So my deep cut is a movie, but it's probably an impossible to find movie. You can find clips though, and that is Turkish E.T.
Turkish E.T. Oh my
Yes.
God, I've seen Turkish Star Wars.
Yeah.
We actually did a movie mashup of Turkish Star Wars.
Oh, that's amazing.
Way back in the day when the Royale was a thing.
So for some of you who don't know, there was a period where in Turkey they observed no copyright laws at all. I'd say this was in the 80s, 70s, 80s, maybe even longer than that. But they ripped off everything, and it blatantly so. And just type in Turkish ET, and it's probably only a 2-minute clip, but it is amazing.
I'm going to put that on the website at mostexcellentpod.com, and I will probably tweet it out. So look for that, because I'm going to be sharing that with you if I can find it. I love it. Oh, there's something I forgot to mention, which was so important. So, like, when they keep making promises to each other, they say over and over, make the most excellent promise you can make. I was like, yes, I love it.
Awesome.
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like my recommendation is not a good one. I feel like it's an obvious one, but I would recommend the book Ready Player One. I think it's a Steven Spielberg connection. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily 100% in like a sort of an 80s movie in general recommendation, and not necessarily based on
with
E.T.
We're really hitting prime 80s at this point.
Yeah. But I have a hard time like being like, oh, what's horrible that I can recommend that will scare you forever.
And now for our horrible recommendation.
So I would say if you haven't checked out Ready Player One, the book, check out Ready Player One, the book. Good talk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, most excellent. Be sure to join us next time on a most excellent 80s movie podcast when we are watching from 1983, National Lampoon's Vacation. Back to comedy, yeah. Things I like. Woo! You can find us online at mostexcellentpod.com. Check out the Most Excellent Facebook group. We are on Instagram as well at Most Excellent Pod. And you guys know the podcast drill is what I meant. Like, rate, review, thumbs up, share, tell people about it, subscribe, all that stuff. Help people find us. If you had a good time, let us know what you thought of E.T. Is he terrifying? Yes.
Hashtag ET is terrible.
Yeah. And of course, you can find me at NCT Phoenix, which is nctphoenix.com.
And then you can find me, Nathan, at squishystudios.com, or you can check out my web series Voyage Trekkers.
You definitely should check out web series Voyage Trekkers.
It's a sci-fi comedy about the worst starship crew in the galaxy.
As always, at a most excellent 80s movie podcast, we encourage you to be excellent to each other, and I'll be right here.
Subscribe.